pass the mic. Yeah. No.
There's no light on the microphone. Grab mine. There we go. The light is on. Yeah, have a seat, everyone. Let's, after being like, thank you. So, I'm here to talk tonight about a subject that's in every one of our lives: anxiety. Pretty much everyone I know struggles with anxiety. And I've noticed something, like my kids are like in their 20s and they have a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of you in middle school and high school, it's like even gone up. And so anxiety is a huge and terrible thing so many of you are battling. Yeah. And I want you to know something: you're not the only one. And this is a safe place tonight to come out in the open and say, I have anxiety in my life. All right, that's so honest. I love that. You know, I would have been the kid like in the back, like hoping nobody would notice me, because I had a lot of social anxiety when I was your age. I had a lot of abandonment. My parents were at work. I was on my own, so I didn't have someone in my life to help me feel safe. And so when I was growing up, it was all on me. I had to be everything for myself. And the problem was, I couldn't handle it. I had to be everything, but I couldn't be that everything. And so when you're caught between two impossible things, you know what happens? You get anxious. And so in today's world, you know, there's all these like things on our smartphones, the news, you know, climate change, violence, all these things that we're hearing about all the time. And we want to fix those things. We want those things to go away, but they're not going away. Have you noticed? People say violence, control guns, and then more guns. So everything seems to fail and backfire and get worse in all these problems. And then I don't know about you, but it's possible to feel in a group like this and feel like you're all alone. Or to feel like everyone's cool and you're the weirdo. To feel like everyone has their act together and you're the failure. That's what I felt when I was your age. And it was a terrible way to live. I wouldn't want that on anyone. And I know that so many of you carry that inside of you. So I really want to keep this simple. And I guess, I forgot one. Trauma. I had a trauma in my life when I was 12, where I was kidnapped and raped by a pedophile. And then I went to junior high like 3 months later. And I couldn't tell anyone what had happened to me. And my parents weren't there for me. And I used to have these rituals that I would do, like, if I heard a car coming down the street, I would, like, hide myself. Or I would do these, like, repetitive behaviors to try to feel like I was in control when I was okay. And so I was a mess. I had a lot of anxiety. Panic attacks, I've had those. You know, those are horrible. I can go on about it, but I want you to know that, you know, I was an anxious mess, and I was like you. I had some things inside of me that were out of control, and I couldn't solve. I couldn't fix me. And have you guys noticed that more self doesn't solve the problem of self? Have you figured that one out yet in life? But you know, you have everyone telling you, you know, you can do this. You know, you're enough for you. You can handle this. And the problem is, you can't, and you're not, and I'm not. And so, again, what do we do with that mandate to succeed and be enough, and the reality deep within that we're not enough? We're not big enough, we're not smart enough, we're not strong enough to handle all the terrible things of life and all the stuff going on inside of us and all those events going on that are scary that we can't control. So what's the answer? Well, I was a stubborn person, and so I did a lot of like detours in weird places, and I did everything from addictions to, I actually got into rock music as an effort in junior high to fit in. I wanted to be a cool kid, and cool kids like rock, and so I didn't just want to like rock, I wanted to play rock so I could be really cool. And I was a terrible musician, and it didn't really work, because it takes years of practice to get decent. So all my efforts to try to control the anxiety and fit in socially and be okay weren't working for me. And after like several years of this, I became a very dark person. And I was very scared, very anxious. It's a terrible way to live. So what happened was I slowly began to realize that I was not the person who was qualified to handle my life and my problems. So weirdly, it's kind of weird because I still to this day, I can't tell you why. I was bored when I was 17 and I was leafing through a bunch of books in my little bookcase in my room, and there was this Bible, this red ASV Bible I got in 4th grade, and I never opened it. So it was sitting there for like the age, so it was there for 5 years, never opened it. I just was opening books and putting them back, opening books, and I opened this red Bible up, and I started to read the words of Jesus, and it struck me, this guy, he tells me the truth. He's being honest with me. He's telling me what's really going on. I was reading in Matthew 5 about, how to be a good person, and so I decided to be religious. The problem was, the harder I tried to be religious, the more anxious and failing, and the more I tried, the worse I behaved. So I go to parties and say, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do smoke dope, and I did all the stuff I vowed I'd never do. And for 3 months, the harder I tried to be good and control my anxiety with religion, the worse I lived. So I was out of control. And that's the thing I didn't want to admit. I couldn't control me. I couldn't conquer my problems. So when I finally came back from a party and just said, I'm ashamed, I still feel like a weirdo, I still don't feel like I fit in, and I opened my Bible again, and they call it Bible roulette, where you just open it and it falls to a certain place. I did Bible roulette, and it fell to this verse, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden." And I was just thinking, I am so tired of being lonely and afraid and feeling dirty and ashamed and weird and like I don't fit in. And I kept reading, okay? And he said, "I will give you rest." And I'm like, boy, that's what I need. I am so restless and miserable and tormented on the inside and anxious. I need peace and rest. Come to me, all you are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke. Let me be in control. Let me take the lead position in your life. Have you ever seen a farm where they have a pair of horses or oxes on a yoke, pulling a wagon or something like that? Yeah. So basically, you be the little junior animal and let God be the mighty all-powerful, and you just stay in tandem with him and go where he's going. So it's a picture of yielding control, surrender. And I finally said, okay, have it. I give up, take my life, I quit. I basically fired myself from being manager of my life. Like the apprentice, you're fired. So I was fired. And I went to bed. And I just gave my life to Jesus. I trusted him with me, and I trusted him to do something that I couldn't do for me. And I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning, and I was thunderstruck because I was completely clean on the inside. I was no longer ashamed and dirty. And I had these thoughts, and I'm forgiven. All my bad stuff has been cleansed and gone. The record's wiped clean. And that the one, when I opened my Bible, the God who was out there, and he was now living inside of me, and as I was reading his words, he was talking to me on the inside, and now he was in me. I would never be lonely or on my, and he was running the universe. He was running my life. I didn't have to be something I could never be. And guess what happened to the anxiety level? And guess what happened to the peace level? Way up, way up. And so, we're having a great time tonight. And all I can say is there are some times in our young adult lives where someone is talking to us, and then someone is talking to us and inviting us to lay down the impossible burden of being in control of everything and trying to manage everything and failing. How many people here are afraid of failure? I think that's the biggest fear that most of us carry. And yet we're told we must succeed. We can never fail. And that's a lie. The truth is, God loves failures, losers, sinners, people who are broken, people who can't handle things. He's like, come to me, and I'll take over, and I'll give your life a new peace and a new direction. And you'll be a new person, too. I'll do something pretty amazing on the inside, and you can have that. So let's close our eyes. I'm going to walk us through a really simple 3-step thing, okay? So bear with me. I know it's kind of weird. Sorry about that, but expect the unexpected. So here we go. So step one, you trust the Lord with yourself. You say, I'm powerless. I can't handle my life. I don't need to handle my life. Jesus will handle my life. And I trust him with myself. I put myself in his hands. I take myself out of my own hands, and I put myself in his loving hands. Because he loves me, and he died for me, and he promises to rescue me if I trust him. And then you look to him. You put yourself in his hands, and you say, rescue me, Lord. Come in, do an outside intervention of love. Come from the outside into my heart and life. Come in and take the throne of my life. Take over. And do whatever you want inside of me. You have total freedom. You're the king. And whatever the king wants to do, the king gets to do. And so surrender your life, turn your life and your will over to him, and let him come in. And then believe that he will actually do what he promised. He says if you come to him, you have an invitation. So believe the invite is good and that he's welcoming you to himself. And trust him with you and trust him for a rescue. And he will come in. So that's a pretty simple, you could do it like instantly. You could just make that interchange, that decision, and put your life in his hands and let him be king and love you and embrace you and then come into your life. And I'm going to tell you something. When he's in there, you'll never be totally alone ever again. And when he accepts you, you don't have to worry about what some other people might accept or not accept you. You have the infinite, ultimate person who says, you're one of mine. You're in. You're never out. You're always in because you're mine. And he's going to take care of the universe. So who's the only one who can fix planet Earth and clean up the mess of our lives and handle all events of history and all the wars and all the weird stuff going on? Yeah, that's right. God can. Can I? Nope. Can you? Impossible. And we don't have to. That's the good news. So if God could straighten out this guy who's a total mess and on the wrong path, heading downhill quick, and he turned my life around, there is nobody in this room he can't reach. There is nobody he can't help if you open your heart and let him take the throne and let him come in from the outside and come in and do what only he can do. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. So if you want to talk to me, I'll be here a little bit. And then your trusted youth leaders and other people, there's like some rooms back there if you want to like go a little deeper. Some of the stuff we mentioned is pretty personal, and you probably don't want an audience. That's okay. We have some trusted people who will help walk you through that wonderful change and that freedom from anxiety and that peace that you've been hungering and looking for. It's available. So, all right. So I guess we're going to have